Karp's wonderful editorial coming up in our November issue. So, how do you equate Thanksgiving, Joe, with people and what they should be doing with their kids when everybody's sitting around?
Well, it's an opportunity because everybody's around, and there are some difficult conversations people don't want to have. Mostly the children don't want to have it with the parents, but sometimes the parents don't want to have it with the children. And it's an opportunity to talk about your estate plan, talk about your health decisions, talk about your decision-making process, talk about what, if you don't want to reveal everything, at least how they can find out about your assets. Let people know who's in charge of decision-making. It's so important. The number of calls my office will get when one of my clients, and we try to beat our clients over the head with, you ought to let your kids know what's going on and give them some information and let them know who's what. I'll get a call. My mother was just in an accident. Who's in charge of her medical decisions? Me or my brother? Who's and sometimes it's neither, and it's the cousin Shirley because she thinks the kids are wimps and won't do the right thing by her, or they're not available, or they don't care because they're too busy. So having all of those difficult conversations with people is essential.
Joe, I want to stop you. I have to stop you a minute. Are you on a cell phone?
No, I'm on a hard line. You want me to?
Oh boy, you're on a hard line. We're having a lot of interruption.
Let me try a different instrument. And
could you do that, please? Because I don't want anyone to lose your pearls. Okay, we're going to wait for him to come back. I'm watching my little.
Just walk over and see if there's a phone thing. Hold on.
Okay, that would be good.
Yeah, I'm not on the cell.
Okay, yeah, because it's.
How's this? Any better?
Let's see. Well, just start talking to me.
Yes, I'm talking. Is this any better?
Well, we keep having a little bit of some bleeps. I don't know why that's happening to us.
I have no idea.
Okay, now that's better.
Call you right back from my cell phone.
No.
Just maybe because my phone line is connected through cable, maybe the cable is having problems.
Okay. All right. Why don't you try that?
Right back from my cell phone in less than 1 minute.
Okay. Bye. Well, while he's doing that, I'll just tell you about Joe Karp. Joe Karp is an extraordinary elder law attorney. He is actually someone that we have used, our family has used. I've referred him to so many people. He is very much like Dr. Mencia in a way. He's like a doctor of law. He cares about people. He goes the extra mile for so many reasons. Joe Karp is a unique individual, and he is so caring and really does a lot to help society. Joe, are you back?
I'm back. Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's better. I don't know why.
Oh, no, I was on my regular phone.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, well, now you're so. I was just saying while you were gone that you are very much like Dr. Mencia, as he is a great doctor and caring about people medically. You do the same thing legally, and it's someone that we're very fortunate to have here in our South Florida. I know because even though you are located in Palm Beach County, you have taken care of people all throughout South Florida.
Oh, sure. And the good news is when they come to me, I don't stick a needle in them.
Right? You don't stick a needle, you just needle them a little bit.
I needle my clients all the time. I do, actually. I have fun. I tease them because we're talking about such serious and heavy stuff that you got to get light, you got to be comfortable, you got to deal with the things that people are uncomfortable about talking about. And they're uncomfortable even talking about themselves when they come in, and we have to make it comfortable so that they can feel free to be honest. And it's amazing. I mean, I have people come in, and they'll say to me, in fact, I had a client come in yesterday. He's a retired lawyer, and he and his wife started talking to me. They are clients. They've been clients for years, but life keeps changing. And he said, here's what's going on. We haven't told anybody this. And then they open their hearts and spill their guts out about one of their children hurting financially, how they're helping him, how that's created stress between the two children because the one child who doesn't need the help knows about it and is resentful, and how do we deal with it, and how do we do what's fair? And we had a conversation about whether equal is fair or equal is unfair, and how to deal with their children, because obviously for most of us who have families where everybody does get along, and that's not true in all of the families, we don't want to be the cause of the breakup between the children. We don't want our actions to create the problem.
And it does, doesn't it? You know, it is amazing, Joe, when I think about what you have there on your plate with every single person. You know, you're talking about Dr. Mencia may come in and he has, you know, one patient he's dealing with, and I guess they have family members, but most of the time he doesn't see them. But your whole legal practice is involved in that one person, two people come in, and everything takes precedence around that. And I just want to tell you, I have a friend, and I thought of you, and I said, boy, and they don't live here, and I wish they did. There are 7 siblings, and the man that died has plenty of money, and of course he's been living with a woman. And let me tell you, I'll use the word all hell has broken out. Now, he just died. Joe, you cannot believe what's happened. And I'm sure I don't know anything about his will or what he's decided, but this one says, no, she can't stay here. The other one says she can stay here. What about some of the things? I mean, it's amazing, Joe, what's happening to a family that seemed to be so together.
And what probably happened there is one of the things I discuss with my clients all the time. The father who died, probably thought that a couple of things. One, there'll be no problem. There's plenty of money for everybody.
Right.
That's number one. Number two, they have always been so nice to my significant other or my second wife, whatever it is. They really enjoy her and appreciate her. And they will always do right by her. And the answer is, when you're dead, the rules change. The person who kept everybody in line, and that doesn't mean they were cracking the whip. They didn't want to hurt Dad. They didn't want to create a problem. Didn't do it. Next, he probably didn't communicate. He probably didn't sit down and say, look, when I die, I'm going to make sure she's provided for adequately. He probably didn't even talk to the lawyer, maybe. She's going to live in this house the rest of her life. You guys don't need, think of it as if I died after her. Don't worry about when you're getting the house. She needs a place to live, and she has given me a good life. And you will be okay. And I'm going to leave her some money. Now, sometimes we have those conversations with our clients who wants to do that, and I say, well, instead of leaving her the money, say he says I was going to leave her $500,000, and that'll be enough for her. And I'll say, what are you trying to accomplish? She'll say, well, I want her, she can get 3% interest, she'll get $15,000 a year. I said, well, properly invested with an advisor, she can probably get 5 or 6% a year. Why don't you just leave that money in trust for her? Have somebody have a bank or somebody else in charge, give her the income for life, and if it doesn't achieve a certain level, let them invade the principal for that purpose. But when she dies, it won't go to her kids, it'll go back to your kids, so they'll feel more comfortable. And this is the stuff that has to be communicated. I mean, a lot of people don't want to do it. Oh, the kids will get so upset if they hear I'm doing this. Oh, I got it. It'll be a lot easier when you're dead, where you can't talk to them, and there's no rational voice. And even if your kids are saints, maybe your in-laws are greedy SOBs, and they're going to push the kids, and they're going to have the conversation, And you really have to talk about these things and deal with them. And you have to deal with the family dynamics. When I sit down with people and they've filled out the form that we ask them to fill out with the information, I sit down and I say, now let me tell you how I conduct this meeting. In the beginning of the meeting, all we're going to do is talk about yourselves, who you are, what your health is, what's going on in your life, what's important to you. Then we're going to talk about your cast of characters, your children, your in-laws, your grandchildren. We have to know how everybody interacts, what everybody's needs are, who's capable of doing what, who doesn't like each other, who has jealousies, who's had their hand out, who's financially responsible, who's irresponsible. Then I'll look at the money. Then I'll see what you got. Then I'll formulate in my own mind what I think is a good plan. Then I'm going to look at what you have. What documents do you have? Are they consistent with what I would be doing for you or not? And we'll discuss it. And then we can quote a price. Now, the interesting thing is the people I was talking about that I met with yesterday who has the son who's had the financial problems. They have the two kids, and he has a substantial IRA. There's a $2 million IRA. And my clients are totally modest livers. You know, they're stereotype of their generation. They spend what they have to, not what they can. They don't waste money by their standards, and they have a decent life. They take a cruise a couple of times a year, and they have their home is appropriate, and they go out with friends to dinner, but they're not spenders in the big, wild sense. They don't deplete their resources dramatically. You know, there are good years and bad years where the market goes up or down, and they have some other assets. And I said, when you die, each of your kids is going to get $1 million from the IRA, assuming things stay as it is. Will your son, who's financially been needy, do you think he will use this prudently and draw on it only to the minimum amount necessary? Or do you think his wife's going to say, my son lives in Jersey, what the hell, you only live once, let's cash it in and get the cottage down in South Jersey. And they looked up at me in disbelief and said, how did you know that's what she wants? I said, I was just using that as an example. They said, you're absolutely right. And they live in Jersey, so there's a state income tax. They said, you're right. What he would do is cash in the $1 million IRA, pay between the federal government and the state of New Jersey 50% in taxes, because she's like, what are we waiting for? Look at your parents. They never had all of these things. All they had left was money in their pockets and peace of mind for the rest of their life. We will take that net $500,000 and we'll buy a place on the Jersey shore and we'll furnish it up and it'll be great. And they said, you know what else? Once they have it, they won't be able to maintain it because they can't maintain it. They don't have the money. I said, well, why don't we do an IRA trust for him where he is restricted to required minimum distributions. He can't piss it away. He can only take the amount out. And I said, and Vanguard's the company managing your money. Leave Vanguard in charge of the money. They'll charge a modest fee, but it'll be easy. You like the way they manage money, they'll do it, and it'll take everything out of your son's hands. And I said, for all you know, your son will thank his lucky stars because you're letting me believe that maybe his wife is the spender and not him. And I said, now go home and think about it. And he said, well, why didn't you tell us about this years ago? I said, we didn't do it years ago. I said, think of estate planning like your car. I said, in 1957, what car were you driving? He said, well, in 1957, we had just bought a Plymouth something or other. I don't remember what. I said, well, I guess you put on the seatbelt and had airbags. He said, no. I said, of course not. I said, estate planning is just like cars to some degree. we're constantly improving it. We're constantly coming up with new ideas to make it better. And this wasn't around. The tax laws were worse on IRAs and beneficiaries. This is around now. So if you want to give your kids anti-lock brakes, seat belts, and airbags, you couldn't do it 30 years ago. You couldn't do it 15 years ago. Here's the good news. You can put a safety net around your kids now that didn't exist in the past. And I said, that's not controlling from the grave. It's just doling it out in the fashion in which you wish to dole it out. You're not, and I said, look, think about it. Don't decide today. Think about it. Go home. I don't want you to, you're okay. You can wait another 2 weeks or 3 weeks to come in. And they said, before they walked out, and I forced them not to hire me because they're existing clients, and I really liked them to digest it. By the time they were done and they didn't hire me at my insistence, they were the son who's financially secure and doing well and making a good living. They want to do the same thing for him for two reasons. One, if he doesn't need it, he can get it spent out just like the other brother, and they're treating him equally. And two, they recognize their son is financially successful, spends a hell of a lot of money, and probably if he had economic hard times, wouldn't know how to slow down. This will protect him on that count too. So you're always dealing with the family. You're always dealing with the anticipation. And I said to him, do you have my business card? And he had it with the book that we did with copies of his documents. I said, I've changed it. He said, you've been in the same location for a dozen years. Why did you change your card? And I took out the card, and it had my name, and it said, the Karp Law Firm, Joseph Karp, attorney at law. I said, a couple of years ago, I changed the card. And I gave it to him. He said, well, what's different? I said, it doesn't say attorney at law anymore. It says counselor at law. He's busy giving counsel to families. This guy was a top-notch, heavy-duty lawyer, worked for the government, so he did well, but he didn't get multi-rich. He did well and lived prudently. And many of the people who are listening now are retired civil service workers or government employees. They've done well. And this guy said, I love it. He said, my kids will have no pension. I have a pension. He said, this is like a pension for my kid. I said, absolutely. And so we're constantly trying to deal with what the issues are. But if I didn't have the talk about the conversation about the 10th kid, and I didn't have an understanding of the jealousy and how to handle it, that's what we've got to do. We're there trying to deal with things.
Joe, I just want to interrupt you because I just want to jump in on this. Isn't it wonderful that someone has enough money that they can leave it to their children? But on the other hand, maybe sometimes it's even better there was no money, so there was no fighting, because not everyone is as smart as you, and not everyone finds someone like you, and not everyone has a lawyer that they can rely on. And it turns to such mush so many times. And I want to lead that into going to your seminars. What you're hearing on the radio is just a touch. It's just the bit of the iceberg. It's not hardly anything, because you can't put it all into what Joe or his associates do in 3 hours in a seminar. So let me tell you when you're going to be able to hear this information and so much of it. You're going to be able, if you write this down, Tuesday, November the 4th, from 1:30 to 4, up in Port St. Lucie at the Holiday Inn. It's very nice up there. You might want to go and do that. But if you want to stay into Palm Beach County, you can write down Wednesday, November the 5th, from 1:30 to 4 at the Palm Beach Gardens Marriott, or Thursday, November 6th, from 1:30 to 4 at the Courtyard by Marriott, Boynton Beach. One thing I've never said before, but if you go, for instance, to the one at Palm Beach Gardens and you just want more, you can go to the other one at the Marriott in Boynton Beach. There's no cost to this, and Joe would be more than happy to have you do that because it is very entertaining and you learn a lot. Now, let me give you the website that you can get all this information. It's karplaw.com, karplaw.com. Easy, easy. And if you get on there, you'll see if you can't make the November ones, you'll be able to figure out how you can get to the December ones. The phone number, just in case that's how you have to do, you're not on the internet, it's 1-800-893-9911. This is 1-800-893-9911. And I will assure you, because as I said when Joe was trying to switch phones, he has helped our family so many times with these legal documents, and you can be assured that you're going to look very, very far to find I was going to say a doctor, a legal doctor, like Dr. Karp. So, Joe, I do thank you so much for what you do here. You really have made a difference in a lot of people's lives, and you do care so much for them.
And we are so, I consider myself very fortunate. I get an opportunity. I was a child of the 60s who went to law school because I really wanted to help people. I was, ask not what your country can do for you, but what can you do for your country kid. I was raised on that. I believe that we could, and your country are the people in it. It's not just the government, it's the people. And that's always been my philosophy, and that's why some of my politics is all about people. I care about people. I want to make sure everybody in this country can get a flu shot. That's not wrong. I think that's a good thing. I want everybody to get health. I want everybody to have their life easier and more peaceful and more loving. And so when I get a chance to help a family avoid going broke in a nursing home, when I get a chance to help a family maintain their dignity if they become infirm and disabled, when I can help a family keep family harmony as best as possible, that's such a rewarding feeling. And to me, it really is, it's sort of one of those miracles of my life that I get paid to do something I'm really enjoying, and I feel better. It's just a good feeling. And my wife will say to me, "How was your day today?" And I'll come home some days, and when I've had the opportunity to make life easier for people, I had a couple the other day. They were tormented. They didn't know what to do. And they had one piece of property they owned with their son, and they had some other property, and they have kids. And when I was done, and I talked to them, and they were trying to figure out what to do. And the one piece of property is rental income property, and they were going to, leave everything equally to the children. And because we had the conversation, I said, do your daughters really want to be, your other three, there's a son and three daughters, do they want to be business partners with your son when you die? Do they really want to negotiate how to manage that property? And if your son's not a problem, do they want to be partners with his wife? And their eyes almost popped out. I said, so why don't you leave your house, that half of that rental property, it's a condominium out of state, to your son, and leave your daughters an amount of cash equal to whatever the appraised value is when you die, so that they're not in bed together. They don't have to negotiate anything with each other. It's equal, but they're not going to be fighting over what to do. And the wife, when we were done, hugged me. She said, I hadn't even thought about it. My husband just said, we'll leave them each a quarter of our half So I said, and we had that conversation. That meant your son would own more than 50% of the property. He could dominate things. There would be arguments. There would be fights. Because he already owned 50, so if you gave him 12 and a half, he'd own 62. She said, I didn't even see the problem, and you gave us the solution. She said, I am so thankful, and gave me a big hug because I helped, and she was just thrilled. And I walked home. I didn't walk home, but when I walked in the door, I still was floating because I was able to avoid a family problem. This is a family that gets along.
Yep, that's great. Well,
and they left him, those three girls, 25% of their, 12.5% apiece. Here would have been hell.
Yeah, that's true. Well, we're out of time, and I think we've made everybody realize what they should do, and if they don't do it, then they deserve what they get. But we're trying to
give them the phone number. If you need more information, our toll-free number is 1-800-893-9911, or go to the website, Karplaw, KARPLAW.com.
Thank you, Joe. We really appreciate it, and I'll talk to you next time.